Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Myths and Truths of 5G, Steering Your Agency Towards 5G and IoT Benefits. We hope that you're ready for a lot of information, very useful information, and we're going to be talking about three significant highlights and a bunch more information today, but we're going to be covering harnessing IoT capabilities, 5G and other connectivity options, also talking about infrastructure needs for achieving true 5G, and technology checklists that be used to considering when moving to 5G and beyond. My name is Marcus Claycomb. I'm presently the National Business Development Manager for Public Safety for Panasonic Connect of North America. I'm a proud graduate of Session 273 and retired after 30 years in law enforcement and 13 years in fire rescue in Florida. Today, I am joined by two very intelligent subject matter experts, two very important peers, and also two very good friends, Sean and Alfred. If you would introduce yourselves and give a little background for us, please.
So I am, my name is Sean Romanowski. I'm the Director of Technology for the Boston Police Department. So we are responsible for radios, computers, and mobile data terminals, I'll refer to, which is a laptop that's mounted in a vehicle, things such as shot spotter gun detection systems, and a host of other mobile technology devices. And thank you for, Marcus, thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely, happy to have you. Alfred.
My name is Alfred Tolentino. I am so happy to be here to discuss 5G technologies as it pertains to public safety. I have been with Panasonic for over 25 years. My role in Panasonic is a senior manager overseeing our government sales engineering team, focused on public safety and federal.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you both for being here. I know it was very hard to coordinate. You guys are both very, very busy and in high demand, and the folks only got a small scratch of the surface of what your entire portfolio that you bring to the table is. But I'm very happy to have you guys here and have this conversation today. For those of you watching, you're going to be in listen mode only today. We're going to ask that you submit your questions via the chat and that we will answer them real time throughout the webinar. If you need further information on any of the content that we present today, our contact information will be published at the end of the webinar, so you can reach out to us after the fact, or if you think of something that you wanted to ask that you didn't get to ask during the webinar. And further information will be available on resources and especially the certificate of attendance if you did attend during the live session. So moving right into it, because I know we got a lot to talk about, I wanted to pose a question to Alfred about Can you kind of provide an overview of what true 5G is and how we got to this point and what some people have believed 5G was leading up to this point?
That's a great question, Marcus. I think if we kind of step back a little bit, so as everyone is well aware, 4G has been out there for quite some time. 5G, as it stands, fifth generation wireless technology. Just a kind of quick overview of what 5G is designed to have the fastest and most reliable connection experience. The speeds between the two, 5G and 4G, theoretically, from a download perspective, up to 20 gigabits per second versus 4G, which is 180 megabits. But the big thing around 5G is the latency. It's supposed to be 5G incorporates a lot less latency than the 4G technologies. We're talking almost 1 millisecond based on the application. For 4G, it's up to 50 and 100 milliseconds. But the design overall aspect of it is to enhance the overall connection experience. So when we talk about 5G, there's two avenues of 5G. Everyone talks about 5G from a technology standpoint and the capabilities, but it's actually two separate technologies altogether. And when we talk about that, it's not a separate of technology around 5G. It's more of the network infrastructure currently and where carriers are going. These are discussion points that we always have around 5G, and it's an important discussion altogether. So you have 5G, what we call NSA non-standalone. So it still uses the 4G backbone to initiate the connection, but your speeds are on a 5G network infrastructure. When carriers continue to improve their 5G overall technology and network, Their plan is to go to a pure 5G standalone, which is SA. If you hear those terminologies, those are the really main differences. And that's when I suspect you will see the true speeds around 5G when carriers move to a true 5G standalone infrastructure where there's no infrastructure to start the connection, which is currently today with a lot of carriers. But again, the carriers are moving to that standalone infrastructure feature. So with 5G, the one thing that changed between 5G and 4G, as you can see, utilizing a higher frequency bands. Again, those are challenges altogether. When you go to higher frequency bands, you have a lot more attenuation because as you get to higher frequency bands, the bandwidth is much bigger, but the frequency range is more susceptible to attenuation because the environment itself, the distances get shortened because of those. But again, the technology and network infrastructure has to build around supporting the 5G network to incorporate and reduce those challenges altogether with using higher frequency bands. So basic overall 5G, you'll continually hearing 5G, but please understand there's two terminologies around that as of stands today of non-standalone, which is using a 4G backend to initiate the connection, but still using the 5G infrastructure for your throughputs. But when you see carriers moving forward with 5G, you'll see the true aspect of where 5G is going when they move to a pure standalone 5G network.
So and I'm sure we're going to get more into it, but the one of the good sides of the 5G is the amount of data that you can put out and how quickly
Absolutely.
You can get it from point A to point B. But the downside is it goes for shorter distances and doesn't penetrate as well as some other wavelengths.
That's
so that's
correct.
some of the ups and downs of it.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, and you talked about the standalone and non-standalone, and I know that my experience in 5G, using the air quotes for that, was actually 4G LTE and enhanced 4G because the infrastructure wasn't built out. So if you don't have all the physical capabilities, it doesn't matter if you have a 5G phone because you're not going to be operating at those levels and those speeds. Or any device, not just the phone.
Right.
So I'd love to bring Sean into the conversation. I want to talk about IoT, what it is, and the ability to harness those capabilities with 5G and other connectivity options. So we can start with either one of you, but I wanted to know what would the benefits of agencies out there be with the full true 5G capability if the money and time and energy and effort was built on building the infrastructure and true 5G capability? What are the benefits that can be achieved by that with agencies that cannot be achieved with 4G LTE and previous?
And one of the things that was mentioned is obviously the coverage area, which under 5G you get slightly less coverage. However, the capacity is greatly increased, and it allows us to do a lot more things. So focusing on the 5G portion of it, it will allow us to bring things together that we've never been able to do, such as everything from managing road signs, messaging on the way. So if we have a public safety emergency vehicle en route to a scene, the ability to manage things such as signaling, and we can manage a much larger. It brings in things such as GPS because of the lower latency. Oftentimes you'll see not only latency, but additional delay built into some of the apps. But with the 5G, we can run it at much higher rates. We get to bring much more data to the end user, everything from video to body-worn cameras in real time. You can bring those cars together, make those cars a hotspot, and then have the 5G modem, for example, built in if you don't necessarily set it up with every device. So it really gives a whole host of advantages to a public safety vehicle in those. And we're not talking just data. The amount of data you get from the vehicle itself, everything from integration with the onboard data sensors, the OBD2 sensors often referred to. When we do telematics, we can get the heartbeat of that car in real time as well. Everything from lights and sirens, the status of the weapon in the holster. And these things all come in real time. Presently, what we have to do is often limit the amount of data we send to the vehicle. Video is very difficult depending on where you are in the area. but we have continuously seen increases, and we've been very excited to get 5G into these cruisers.
And so another question would be, not only does it allow for greater throughput from going from data to metadata and bidirectionally being able to transfer that information faster, does it allow you a greater number of devices on the network? Is there any benefit to that?
Absolutely. There was not too far in the past, it was unusual for every officer to have a single device on them. Now we have so much better throughput that in many instances we have 4 and 5 SIM cards associated with a vehicle. When you take the person and the vehicle, there can be 4 and 5 SIM cards. Some of the folks I work with on some of the other organizations, one department in particular, State Department, had 5 SIM cards per device for every officer they had. So this does allow you a much greater ability to put almost endless devices. And we have continued to see the evolution of law enforcement in situations such as a SWAT environment, where the products that are coming out that are able to perhaps see infrared through a building, and you can share that with your counterparts. This new data will allow us to do that, where in the not so distant past, you could have that technology, but it wasn't possible to share that data with people in the vicinity. So now you can go from, we'll take a person on the front side of the house and the back side of the house. They can communicate in real time with whatever data they're seeing on that video, and it will go back to the cell and back to the officer as if they both have, they're beside each other, even though they can't see each other.
Mm-hmm. Alfred, I know you work with several verticals, but certainly you've done a lot of work with the government teams. Have you seen anything that has come to market with the advances of 5G that is making it allowable and approachable that 4G did not provide?
Well, I think Sean kind of hit the nail on the head in regards to where 5G is actually taking public safety. The aspect of implementing one true solution around a technology has increased. Reducing the latency is a big thing we talked about earlier. Reducing the latency in public safety is very, very important. Data points are coming from everywhere. The one thing that 5G has implemented is the ability to get critical data information quicker, with limited latency on the devices. The number of devices they are able to connect and getting all points of information automatically, immediately, has been paramount with the new technology around 5G. Again, the one aspect of it is video streaming, ability to get the information real time, what's going on, getting that information quicker to the officers, to anyone in particular that needs that information, especially in critical decision making that has to happen that very quickly, is very important. And what 5G does is allows you to do that because of the latency, because of the ability to expand the bandwidth and getting the speeds that they would get, usually from a wireless LAN network, right? As a prime example, reducing infrastructure at times for agencies that may not have the ability to set up access points and so forth. Reducing that, now they can utilize technologies around 5G to incorporate a true wireless network. If you kind of look at it. Mm-hmm. The aspect we talked about with technology with 5G, now you can incorporate a private network feature set that's going to continue supporting 5G. So again, reducing the infrastructure requirements from agencies that may not have ability to have those subject matter experts to implement network technologies within their facilities, but now expanding those capabilities, utilizing technologies around that.
Another feature that we're looking at is drone technology using 5G. That is evolving rapidly. The amount of data that you can get in real time, 4K video, controlling multiple drones in a confined space, all of this is made possible as well, further enhancing officer safety, because a drone oftentimes can be there quicker and get a better view of visibility, which again, network connectivity is key to making these things work properly.
Yeah, and we've seen it from the agencies that are blessed with the opportunity to have air units, like true helicopter air units, but also in the drone technology, the transmission of the video. And it used to be, you're playing the radio game. It's telephone of that information is just being what the helicopter sees or what the operator of the drone sees, and you're relying on that transfer over audio. And now everybody who needs to see it is actually seeing it real time to make those command and control decisions real time without that delay of the game. And you can see what you're actually seeing the event, and you can make actions according. In addition to, they're piping in real-time 911 to the vehicles. They have access to public-private partnership cameras to the vehicles. They have the ability to transmit video in trauma events, the public safety aspect or SWAT medic aspect, to actual trauma doctors in the ER and EDs from the road at the event site. It's an amazing enhancement with technology and the options that are coming. On that note, I ask you, Sean, where do you feel Boston PD is now, and where do you think they are going to on that 5G and beyond journey?
So Boston Police has been very fortunate. We have followed very closely the technology, but we have run into limitations. So one of the things that we want to do right now is start bringing in the body-worn camera. As it is now, the body-worn cameras, because of the we're putting out over 4,000 devices of body-worn cameras. It wasn't realistic for us to download all of that from the vehicle. The latency, the delay, the batteries all became issues. This has allowed us to start looking at the next generation of body cameras that we buy will be fully integrated. So there'll be alarms that go off when that, in certain circumstances, where we can bring that back to either the duty supervisor or operations or wherever we may need that video in real time. And in a large scale event, as multiple units go in, you can watch these units in real time. So that's where we see this going. We also see using proximity and dispatching to be more efficient. So when we start to bring in the entire envelope of deploying drones, body-worn cameras in real time, vehicle video in real time, all going to a scene, we believe that we'll be able to get a full picture of the entire environment before many of the decisions would have to be made. We would see what was going on, and where nowadays what we do is oftentimes we have to make the best decision with limited information. Perhaps one person has called in and given us a certain amount of information, but because they're dealing with the scene, they're not giving us other information. This will allow us to see in real time and hear in real time what is going on through a host of sensors and devices in that area. Then when you bring in fixed base cameras, which are always there present, you'll be able to the point where when the call comes in, you'll be able to bring the cameras up, deploy the drones, deploy the first officers on scene, and get a complete picture of what's happening back at an LECC or a UCC.
There, one of the points you make, it kind of goes back to that pro and con. It's definitely more heavily weighted on the pro side than the con side. But with the good news about 5G and beyond is the amount of voluminous data that can be transmitted that historically has not been able to be. That the metadata, we have kind of reached the cusp now where it is reached to be so much information that a human being cannot process it into actionable data on their own. So there is the discussions of artificial intelligence being used to make that actionable data. Is there any considerations by law enforcement as a whole that you have seen, or the Boston Police Department, to look at AI to assist in those endeavors?
We are just now looking at AI. One of the immediate things that we're looking for AI are things such as you want the maximum uptime availability on a camera. However, just because a camera is working doesn't mean it's sending you the pixels or the shot that you think you have. The video shot may be, perhaps the camera has been turned, if it's PTZ, where it's facing down or facing a wall, or the AI will allow you to, in real time, 24 hours a day, to ensure that the camera is actually looking at something useful. If it goes outside of a certain range, AI will tell you, this isn't one of the 20 presets you have told me is valid. So if it sees something other than one of those 20 presets, it will notify you that something is wrong with the image on this. Now, it will also stitch together certain frames so that if you have half of a frame, or it will still say, that something is not quite right with that image. So as we start to bring more and more of these pieces together, it allows us to reduce the amount of time an officer has to make a decision. Because what will happen is the folks making the decision right now or getting information that might not necessarily be needed on that particular call, AI will allow us to do that as well. Another thing that's happening is voice to text. If we have AI immediately take that voice, convert it to text, and then search it. So if a certain word is said in there, such as gun or threat, it will identify that and focus on that and send the key pieces back to others that are either en route or on scene or decision makers. So we do see AI reducing the total volume of data being sent to an officer. An officer, the first focus is to get to the location. If they're running, lights and sirens, dodging traffic, it's very difficult for them to read what's going on. So we're looking at, based upon the status of the call, getting the proper information to them in a very reasonable time and a method that will not distract them from their primary function. So perhaps that is being read, over their headset or, an earpiece or over the MPT in the vehicle. So we do see all of these pieces coming together. And all of this is made possible by the fact that we have that new data bandwidth to work with.
Mm-hmm. Alfred, but any comments from you on the need or the embracing or the consideration of AI in that metadata world that we're moving to?
Well, I think what Sean alluded to is that with the new technology around 5G, with the data throughput they're getting today, ability to get information quicker into the hands of the decision makers and into the officers, the first responders, et cetera, it creates an expansive information workflow, right? So it actually is speeding up the process of a lot of public safety customers that we work with, but also overall from the public sector side of implementing AI today, right? The challenge has always been AI, how much data points, what feeds are we getting, how do we investigate the use of AI? It's speeding up the process now. A lot of agencies are looking at that, as what Sean alluded to, is that ability to get all that information, be able to analyze quicker to ensure it gets to the first responders and making the right decisions. Using not only their experience, but also getting the data points so they can make those right decisions. And that's where 5G comes into play, is the data stream ability to get that information quicker, ability to reduce the latency of video streaming so you get a full picture of what's going on, and then creating an AI environment that can analyze that information much faster and getting that information to a point where it's reasonable to say, again, not to make the decisions by the end users without using their experience and know-how, but understanding where that data points are coming from, how to utilize it, and making sure that information gets to the right folks in the way it's supposed to be depending on the environment they're working in that day, or that especially that hour or that minute. And that's where technology today is going, and that's where 5G is implementing, because you hear a lot today, public safety, first responders, the main aspect of what they're trying to do today is around utilizing technologies around 5G, and supporting what they're trying to do is incorporate an AI environment, so that way they can hone the skills, but also implement a reasonable mechanism for them to make the right choices depending on the environment they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the no less than two considerations with AI. It's a very new resource, and we need to tread cautiously in where and how we apply it. And to your point, always have human oversight, the SMEs in place to verify the information, trust but verify, and that focus is for the safety and the efficiency and effectiveness of the workflow, right? And the other one is, especially in the law enforcement and public safety verticals, they are operating that AI within a sandbox. They're still operating it in a CJIS compliant system and network, not just ChatGPT, as it were. But on that note, we're talking about 5G. We're talking about all the things that surround that bring in from the infrastructure to get it brought in and operating and stood up correctly and fully. I would ask you guys, if you had, I'll say a checklist, but any advice, tips to follow and avoid pitfalls and get to that resource as efficiently, effectively, and cost effectively as possible.
I think from the we discussed earlier about the infrastructure size. I mean, the whole aspect of 5G is using, like I said, higher bands, as low as 1 gigahertz, as high as 40 gigahertz. The challenge is always propagation of those frequency ranges. With those higher bands, is reducing, so it increases the number of network resources required to sustain that connectivity, especially in rural and rural areas. Very challenging. So depending on the locations where they're at, each agency may be different to assess how 5G is implemented in those areas. There could be challenges, as like, for example, Boston, municipality that size and the population very closely. 5G is a very advantageous technology to utilize. When we talk about the city of Iowa City as an example, where it's kind of spread out, 5G is a bit more challenging because of what we talked about. It's not because of the technology, but it's implementing number of infrastructure requirements to sustain a 5G bandwidth that they need. So each agency has to assess what their limitations are from an environmental perspective, network environment perspective, versus other agencies who may have a more sustainable area that they can support 5G, like a Boston, New York City, et cetera. So those are the things I always look at and ensuring that 5G is a great technology. I think it's going to be an increasing number of areas that will have it. Technology is always continuing to evolve and incorporating those challenges, propagation challenges, to ensure they have the right coverage. The propagation is minimized so that way the attenuation or changes or challenges to sustaining a 5G connection is met. But those are the things that I stress to any agencies to assess to make sure that their environment is advantageous to a 5G environment and how they're trying to implement 5G.
So I see in the sidebar there's a reference to some of the legislation that we need, and you mentioned that Boston is we have a unique set of circumstances. Yes, we're a technology center where we are very congested. There's a lot of infrastructure. So from the Boston perspective, yes, we have an advantage over this 5G. We were one of the test cases in the country for 5G. I guess we could call that low-hanging fruit. We're a dense city. There's a lot of return per site invested. There are concerns about getting out of the city environment and getting into a more rural environment and still having these capabilities. That is a big concern to us. As we move out into these, you wouldn't want to have a host of technologies and then at the edge of the city have them drop off. Right. So we do need to continue to work on either the integration of things such as satellite, or continue to somehow integrate the 5Gs or the local Wi-Fis. If you can make a system that will bring in additional bandwidth. Otherwise, because of the close proximity, you can't be in the fields of Iowa and have 5G unless you bring in some other technology. So those are concerns for us, as they should be for all public safety. So the answer isn't as easy for that. I think that might delay some of the implementation of some of these products, and places such as Houston and Boston and LA and New York are going to see these advantages for us. What the intent probably is going to be is, as we move out, we're going to get into things such as cars that mesh, bringing in satellites that, as we all know, Elon Musk is launching satellites, at a very high rate, perhaps folding those into it. But I don't think that it's going to be anytime soon that we see ubiquitous national coverage unless these efforts are made to ensure that the non, or the rural areas are addressed as well.
I mean, the focus certainly right now is the hyper urban areas, the most advantageous. And I mean, these are for-profit businesses, so I'm sure they're looking for the return on investment as well. And it's not a cheap undertaking for any party involved in the building of that 5G infrastructure for it to work correctly. But it is worth the investment all of these opportunities arise. You know, as it stands right now, and even when it gets to that point, if it gets to a nationwide kind of a national standard, there is huge advantage to finding tech partners in the business that have moved to 5G resources, at least offer that, so that when you're ready to go, you can get the hardware with that built-in antenna and the 5G capability, and that they already have strong relationships with the networked business partners, and they can ensure coverage and they can guarantee service after the sale to make sure that that's up and running. Because there are so many pieces to that 5G infrastructure puzzle, it would only make sense to make sure that you invest wisely in that type of consideration, unless you guys think differently.
Well, I think there's some advantages that that we could do to enhance the penetration rate of that, such as public-private partnerships, such as using infrastructure that is already owned by, you know, state and local governments and that sort of thing. So I think that the partnerships have to be a little more, you know, supportive of this new technology, because it will bring advantages to all citizens. Everything from parking to public safety, and public safety, you know, helps all citizens. I mean, it improves the quality of life. It increases property value. So there are a lot of things that advantages to that. But I believe that this is going to be an all hands effort in order to get this out in a quick manner.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because even with the LMR radio situations, I have seen legislation, local legislation, city ordinance and otherwise, that requires new builds to provide enhanced capabilities for radio transmission in large buildings like malls and that, where there's a lot of cement and rebar, that those people are required to put in repeaters, basically, to ensure coverage for public safety personnel on the radio. And with the inability for 5G to penetrate even less than LMR radio, that could be considerations too, right? I mean, in the local deployments.
It does. We're seeing a little bit of that now, and it was driven by fire initially, but now as we have as phones have the capability of not only giving a 2-axis, they can give a 3-axis location. We're seeing more and more where they require, you know, cellular technology to provide that 3rd axis. So when they are looking for someone, so there, you are correct. Those can be expanded upon to continue that effort at more buildings and in smaller footprints, because at the present in the city of Boston, it's based on the size. So if the building isn't a certain size, you don't fall under those requirements. But
right,
I think it's now to the point where we should look at even smaller buildings to enact that sort of legislation.
Yeah, Alfred, can you speak to what Panasonic specifically has done to prepare their client base for that rollout?
Absolutely. So, you know, with our product design, one of the things that we always take great pride in is to assess and evaluate our antenna technology. We invest a lot heavily in our technology, ensuring that we get the best connectivity. So we always do our design work and evaluation in a true anechoic chamber. We've seen a lot of pictures around that. I hopefully get a chance to show more of that technology around that. So we do a lot of design in-house to not only in a good coverage area, but also when we talk about fringe areas of challenge to sustain that that connectivity. That's one of the things that we look at from a product perspective, and we've done that over the years since we design our first and design one of the first products that utilizes embedded wireless technologies. Understanding also working with a lot of partners, especially with modem vendors, to ensure that we look at their technology when they implement 5G, how it sustains and how to utilize in the stress environment that our customers use, especially in the first responders. So those are the biggest things that we look at. And then the third is, you know, we always work closely with our carrier partners, looking at their network build, how they're incorporating 5G, some of the technology changes they're going to incorporate with 5G to ensure that our product line, working with our modem vendor partners, to ensure that we have the latest updates, not only from a driver perspective, firmware perspective, when we talk about sustaining connectivity, but also ensuring that we incorporate technologies to make sure that they get the true 5G capabilities around our product line. of course, our products to support dual SIM technology. A lot of customers always ask about eSIM. Our products with 5G today supports that. A lot of carriers are moving towards eSIM, so reducing the amount of fail points at times when we talk about physical connection. But now when you're talking about embedded eSIM technology is coming to fruition. A lot of carriers are moving towards that, and we support that today. So supports the dual technologies. And then, of course, one of the things that we always get is supporting GPS with our cellular solution, especially with 5G, which we do today. We support that. And then we also incorporate today software offering to allow ability to split and provide GPS to multiple applications utilizing a new software that we just recently released called our GPS complex splitter. So we take in all accounts these type of technologies. We embrace it and incorporate some things to ensure that we follow those guidelines to make sure not only follow the requirements of carriers, but also understanding the challenges our customers face day in, day out to make sure that our products meet those capabilities, and especially with 5G today, the technology and the know-how we had with our previous design, we incorporate that with our new technologies, with our products that do support 5G.
Yeah, there's a lot, and certainly service after the sale and voice of the customer aspects are a huge part of Panasonic.
Yep.
I've seen that on both sides of the table. So we have gone over a great deal of information, and all of it's very good information, but there's a lot of information in today's webinar. As we reach the end here, I kind of wanted to roundtable. Is there anything that we didn't cover that we need to? Is there anything that we didn't cover that we should? Is there anything that you thought of while we were talking that you wanted to make sure we get out?
So there is one thing that I would like to bring up, because we've recently started playing with things like that. So as you get eSIMs into more and more devices, it gives us much more portability. We have started to integrate our landlines into our eSIM format, so it gives us complete portability. So we've actually been able to almost move the entire office environment into the car since the eSIMs have come out, where you can take the landline phone, move it to an iPhone, move it to a Toughbook. And this has allowed the user to continue to maintain that anonymity without having to give out their cell phone to everyone. So we continue to see advantages of moving more data into the car. One concern, obviously, is we need AI in order to make this work properly. And then the other concern with AI is security. We know that once AI gets out there, there's going to be security issues. Those security issues will drive solutions to defeat those, to prevent those security issues. So we see this evolution as going incredibly rapidly, and with that, we've been working much more closely with the manufacturers in an effort to get ahead of the manufacturers putting the product. And you mentioned voice of the customer. We also would like to get ahead of the manufacturing so that we can address those things. So that when we explain that we need the OBD2 sensor and the eSIM all to go in because we want to bring all of this into the single environment, such as which Panasonic is heading to, that allows us to get a lot more usage out of that one device.
Excellent. Alfred?
Well, I mean, I just want to go back to, again, what Sean presented to is that we want to make sure that as a partnership to ensure that we work closely with each customer to ensure where 5G is going and how it is implemented within your infrastructure and what you're currently, because like I said, 5G is a great technology that's upcoming. It's allowing a lot of new capabilities that the first responders have not seen in a long time, and implementing some new ideas are coming out. But the big thing is that 5G is a higher frequency ranges do incorporate some challenges, and it's important to have those discussions. I know a lot of points of interest has always been implementing new technologies and just go about and just go ahead and do that without assessing it first to ensure it meets those qualification requirements that you're looking for, especially in challenging areas because of the spread of population, where the infrastructure is today. So those are common things that I always talk to end users to ensure that they go through those checklists. Always, when you incorporate new technologies, there's always a checklist, and we're more happy to support those discussions with any of those. And not only from Panasonic, but we understand the critical nature of what public safety and first responders go to day in, day out. As Marcus can attest to, I mean, he was not only one of our customers, but also now part of us. But it's important for our discussion because we definitely want to move customers to new technologies, of course, but it's not to the impact of what they're currently doing today. So we don't want to be impactful if the changes is too quickly, but we want to make sure that it sustains throughout the not only evaluation but throughout the implementation of that technology.
Yep, for sure. And all, you know, you're looking to make it safer and increase efficiency and effectiveness, and especially with the staffing shortages everyone is still experiencing, it's even more impactful if it's not. The one good thing, or one of many good things, that public safety employees bring to the table is when you deploy this, they will find ways to use it that will benefit the profession in ways that was never even thought of to begin with. So it'll only get better once this gets deployed.
Absolutely.
We can break anything.
But they can find new ways to use it too.
That's it.
Especially the newer crew coming in that's been using technology since birth. They have a way with it. But thank you guys very much for joining today. Again, I know you're busy schedule, but I'm so appreciative that you're here. It was a great conversation today, a lot of great information. I also want to thank the FBI National Academy and the FBI National Academy Associates. As a graduate, I certainly appreciate them, but as a partner, an alliance partner with Panasonic Connect, we certainly appreciate them and enjoy working with them every opportunity that we get. Want to remind you that you have the ability to download resources, especially your certificate of attendance if you need it, if you join us in the live show. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. You have contact information on the screen for a variety of people, to include me and the people that joined us today. Happy to come to you and provide you a customized solution set for your agency. We also know that not every agency is the same, and there's customized solutions for everybody out there. So we also have contact information for geographical locations for account managers. So if you'd like to contact your specific account manager to answer a question or come for a visit, we'd like to make that available to you as well. And with that, I want to thank you guys very much for attending and listening and giving the information today. Have a great day.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.